Hi, everyone. This is Deanna Crofts-Pelayo over at the Governor's Office of Emergency Services. We appreciate you all so much for being here and your time and everything that you're doing to be trusted messengers for our state. This briefing is for our community-based organizations that are located throughout the state that help us during times of crisis. In particular, this presentation is being hosted by Listos California, which is a program at Cal OES specifically for folks in areas that are most at risk for emergencies, disasters, and other things that may pop up. So with that, let's get started, and we hope that you will find this information helpful and as trusted messengers can relay that information out into your communities. Like I've said, Deanna Crofts-Pelayo, I'm the Assistant Director of Crisis Communications here at Cal OES. You will hear from a variety of experts today, not only giving you an update on weather, but also just kind of what the state is doing for these winter storms, some resources that I think will be really helpful for you all that we hope you can take into your communities, and then answering any questions that you may have. With that, I'm going to hand it over to the National Weather Service, who can give us an update on our winter storm.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Eric Schoening. I'm a meteorologist with the National Weather Service deployed out here to the California State Operations Center. As you saw overnight and this morning, our strong storm system has already started moving into the area. We saw some impacts across northern and central California with rain and wind already today. As the day goes on, those impacts are going to shift south, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. I do want to remind you that this is kind of the continuation of a series of storms that will continue beyond Tuesday as we get into Wednesday and Thursday. Those impacts will primarily be, those additional rainfall will primarily be across the northern third of the state. And then potentially some more widespread statewide impacts could be possible heading into next weekend. Next slide, please. So here are some of the impacts that we're expecting or have already begun across some of the areas of the state. Moderate to heavy rainfall could have several impacts, especially across central and southern California. Obviously, we're already seeing a lot of urban and roadway flooding. We're seeing creeks and streams and rivers increasing in their flows. We'll continue to see rock, mud, and landslides possible since everything is so saturated. We've had some strong gusty winds that has caused some downed trees, tree limbs, and power outages. We already seen some of these strongest winds for the Central Coast and the Sacramento Valley. We'll continue to see some strong winds for the Sierra Mountains and portions of Southern California, especially through today. And continuing through this entire event, we're going to continue to see snow impacts in many of the mountains, especially across the Sierra, but also some higher elevation roadways in both northern and southern California. Just kind of giving you a brief preview of what the next little bit here looks like. As I mentioned, the heaviest precipitation shifting into the southern half of the state. Today, we might actually see some breaks in precipitation across areas like the Sacramento Valley, the Bay Area, and points northward through this afternoon and this evening. But then we have another wave kind of moving through tonight and Tuesday. And what that's going to bring is increased thunderstorms across the area, which will be a little bit more hit or miss, but when they hit, have the potential for locally heavy rainfall, which could cause some issues, including on recent burn scars. Thank you very much for listening, everyone.
Thank you so much, Eric. We are now going to hand it over to Brian Ferguson, Deputy Director of Crisis Communications and Public Affairs at the Governor's Office of Emergency Services. Brian?
Good morning, everyone. First and foremost, we just want to thank you for making the time to be on. We know it's a busy, hectic time. There's impacts to all of our families, people being out of school, power being out, trees being down in our neighborhoods. But what we want you to know, and we're going to get into wider emergency response in a moment, is that the work that all of you do at the local level in our communities is the backbone of how we respond to any emergency, particularly one like floods. In California, we understand that vulnerable populations are disproportionately impacted by disasters, whether they be fire, flood, earthquake, or anything else. And our goal ultimately, no matter how many fire engines we deploy, no matter how many crews we have putting up power lines, the ultimate goal of the work that we do is to keep people safe, and that there's no replacement for the neighbor helping neighbor, community helping community work that each of your organizations does every single day. So just want to open with that. In terms of our broader emergency operation response, as Eric laid out, we find ourselves in a very challenging and dangerous period over the next coming days. Cal-OES, the Governor's Office of Emergency Services, Cal-OES for short, for those of you who haven't worked with us in the past, has been activated to our highest level at our State Emergency Operations Center. So that's really the central coordinating point of government. We have folks from across the threshold of government, from our Health and Human Services Agency to our fire and law enforcement at CHP, Caltrans, environmental protection, natural resources, everyone there together coordinating a unified state response. And we really do find ourselves in a dangerous moment. This is a long duration event. We've had a handful of storms already come in. The ground is highly saturated, and our rivers and streams and culverts are running high. We're about to experience, as Eric just referenced, an additional pattern of storms rolling in through today and possibly several more behind it, which does create a dangerous situation. We are so used to seeing fires in California that we're often picture that in our mind's eye when we think about disasters. But we know that floods actually kill more individuals in this country than any other disasters. Already in this flood event since the 30th of December, we've had more fatalities, 14, than we've had in the entirety of the last 2 fire seasons, which is just 9 in terms of when we talk about civilians. The impacts are not just the water, which rises slowly and sometimes can be seen not as a dangerous threat, but there are impacts from power outages or downed trees. In fact, the bulk of the fatalities we've seen so far have been people who've been hit by downed trees. We know that many Californians, particularly vulnerable folks, may rely on medical equipment or other devices that require electricity. So the power outages are a very dangerous and challenging thing that we are up against. So, the folks we've garnered on this call are really here to help you understand the resources we bring to bear as a state, but also have that two-way communication. So if there are gaps that we see, there's several wonderful leaders on here who can help you identify for us if there's things we can be doing to better support communities. We as a state have a lot of authorities and support that we can provide. We also, just this morning, the president approved a federal emergency declaration, bringing the full weight of the federal government down upon this response. So that includes things like personnel, equipment, flood fighting equipment, helicopters to do emergency evacuation, sheltering equipment, and caches of supplies and other things. So, our goal is to just use every possible resource we have at our disposal, with the idea that ultimately we are keeping as many people safe as we can. This is a challenging event, but what we don't want to lose sight of is that ultimately we as Californians have a vital role to play in helping one another. So much of the work of the disasters and the life-saving efforts are in the human behavior element, which we can influence, letting people understand how to sign up for alerts, how to get signed up with their power company as a critical care user, having people be able to understand the risks that a car can be floated by as little as 12 inches of water. So we'd like all of you to help us push the message into the community, because oftentimes you are better messengers than we are. We understand that we as government are not always the best messenger for particular communities, whether it's a pastor, a community group, a leader in some other community-based or faith-based organization, have the power to save lives. And what we just want to end on here as I go to the next presenter is that we are going to get through this together. And by having this type of call, we are, just the first step, and that if there's things we can do to help you as a state, please don't hesitate to reach out. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining today.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate your time. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Rachel Walker. She is with our Listos California team, who can talk a little bit more about resources, and other important documents, collateral, we'll say, that you can have ready to share with your groups. Rachel?
Thanks, Deanna. I'm very happy to be able to share with you some resources that can help keep people in your community safe, especially those who are most vulnerable. Get them prepared, get them ready. One of the resources that we wanted to point out to you is our Listos California Disaster Ready Guide. This is a large guide that provides a lot of information, but also make sure that people have some of the very basic low or no cost steps that they can take to be ready for any natural disaster. And it totally pertains to the current situation. What's great about this is that it is available in 7 languages: English, Spanish, Chinese, Filipino, Hmong, Korean, and Vietnamese. We also have for you something that's very tailored to what's going on right now: a quick guide to safety before, during, and after flood. And we designed this to be a trifold handout that offers simple tips for preparing for and dealing with floods. It's designed so that you can quickly print it. Anyone can quickly print it who wants to share. It prints out on a standard 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and you can fold it into thirds and get it to people who might need it. Especially people who speak English, Spanish, Hmong, Punjabi, and Chinese. It is available in all of those languages. Additionally, to help keep Californians informed, connected, and safe in their individual counties, we've developed county emergency information resource sheets. There's a resource sheet for each of the 58 counties. It provides information to help people quickly sign up for alerts. If you're out and about handing out information, it has a QR code that takes people right to where they need to go to sign up. It gives them information on who is a trusted resource they can follow on social media in their community, and it connects them to other resources in their county. It also includes a few safety tips. It's designed, again, simply to print quickly on a standard 8.5 by 11 sheet so you can get it out to folks who might need it. And then finally, if you are communicating with a lot of people digitally, we have a very large winter weather social media toolkit with design assets and sample copy for social media use on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. All are available right now in English and Spanish. You're free to modify and share this information with your community. I want to point out that also with this toolkit, there are opportunities for you to make sure that it's accessible information. There's alt text for every image so that you're reaching out to people who may not be able to access this information otherwise. So highly encourage you to take a look at the winter weather toolkit. If you scan the QR code on this slide, you'll be taken right to our resource hub on the Listos California website, and you'll find all this information and maybe some other things that can be helpful to you right now. So I hope this is useful, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Rachel. We're going to hand it now over to Vance Taylor. He's the chief, the Office of Access and Functional Needs here at the California Governor's Office of Emergency Services. I feel like you're an old pro at this, Vance, so really appreciate your time and being able to help us out.
Thank you very much. So as other speakers have really noted on very accurately and appropriately, all disasters have a disproportionate impact on older adults, people with disabilities, and anyone with an access or functional need. And so if you fall within that category, somebody you know, care about, love, or interact with does, there's some very straightforward steps that you should be taking in order to maintain safety, health, and independence before, during, and after these storm events. First off is get emergency alerts. That an emergency, you need to know what's going on, right? To make the right decisions, you're going to need reliable, up-to-the-minute information on the disaster that's impacting your area. These storm events are dynamic. sign up for the alerts. You can go to calalerts.org. That's a great place to get free emergency alerts. Second, prepare for loss of power. All power-related events are going to be very dangerous and potentially deadly for anybody that relies on power for things like assistive technologies, durable medical equipment, or life-saving devices. So conserve energy where possible to avoid a strain on the grid, but also do very straightforward things like charge your equipment early in the day, right? Just make sure that it's fully charged. That way you've got some battery life if power goes down. Talk to friends, family, care providers, and make sure that they're ready to help you out if there's a reason that power should be interrupted. Think about which devices rely on power. Do you have backup battery power? And also know where charging stations are in your neighborhoods and communities. Oftentimes that'll be at a shelter. Number 3, make an evacuation plan. It's highly likely that many Californians are going to have to seek refuge in a shelter. If that's the case, you got to have a plan in order to know how you're going to get there. Think about your support network. Go 5 people deep. Think about folks that can help you evacuate. It's not likely that any one person's available 24/7. But if you've got 5 people on your list, chances are at least one individual will be available to help you. So write down those friends, family members, coworkers, neighbors, anyone that can assist. Talk to them about your needs. Make sure they're ready. So in closing, sign up for alerts, get ready for loss of power, make an evacuation plan. Plan today so you'll be ready to go the second something happens. And with that, I'll turn it over to Secretary Mish, the Undersecretary for Health and Human Services.
Thanks, Vance, and thank you to all of you for joining us today for this call. Again, my name is Marco Meach. I'm the Undersecretary at the California Health and Human Services Agency. And just to add my thanks and gratitude to all of you on the ground who are doing tremendous work connecting with folks in the community in language to be able to really spread the word and make sure that people have the resources to be able to respond to these weather services. I will just note a few different things. First and foremost, I think that we come here in the midst of a pandemic, multiple respiratory viruses that are impacting our communities, from RSV to influenza, and so I say this with the understanding that this can all be very overwhelming to folks. It certainly can be overwhelming when you have schools closed, you may have damage to your home that you're having to navigate, and then you're having to evacuate in particular. So the mental health needs of individuals, both in the community, but more importantly, amongst all of you, because with all, we can't do this work. So would really encourage you all that if you are feeling overwhelmed, if you do have anxiety or depression, or if those in the community that you're serving have those types of symptoms, that is all okay. That is part of where we are today. And so we've made a series of resources available. We have a CalHope a warm line available. You can chat with somebody, you can text, you even can do online chatting with the individual at calhope.org. We also have a 1-800 number. All of that is provided in our CalHHS Emergency Resource Guide. But I would encourage each of you to take some time to also reflect on your own mental health and behavioral health. And if you are in need of resources, please do not hesitate to reach out and seek those resources. It is also something important for you all to share with individual members within your community. So I wanted to kind of anchor with that, because the chaos around us more globally is something that may weigh heavy on people. And so just want to reiterate the importance of mental health for you all. And in order for you all to take care of the people in the community, we need all of you to be healthy and strong. And that's not just only your physical health, but also your mental health. So first and foremost, that the resources are in our Cal HHS emergency resource guide. There was a number of questions related to older individuals. I also want to note that we are the only state in the country that has a friendship line for just older adults. We know that there are multiple older adults that are isolated and are lonely. It is important to check in on them, but we also have a 1-800 number that is available to them that they can call to talk to individuals, to be able to be have a sense of belonging and connection to the community. So would encourage you all to disseminate that information regarding our friendship line so that we have the ability to make sure that our older friends and neighbors are really taken care of. There are a host of other resources that are available. To Vance's point about creating an emergency plan, we've actually developed an emergency plan template that is really designed for people with complex medical needs or access and functional needs. That is available both in English and Spanish, and we've got that available on our website. We also have a prescription guide that is available both in English and Spanish, really designed to make sure that people kind of have a checklist of the things that they need to think about in the event that they have to evacuate to a particular shelter. In terms of stepping back for a moment and thinking about our overarching response, we at the Health and Human Services Agency have mobilized various departments and organizations as part of the State Operations Center to really be able to respond to individuals who are in need. We have really focused on 4 priority populations. So first, individuals who are unhoused in our communities, really working with our Business Consumer Services and Housing Agency, as well as the Interagency Council on Homelessness, to make sure that we're providing technical assistance and helping our county and local partners build up shelters and resources for individuals who are unhoused, really doing outreach in community amongst the unhoused population to ask them to come in to shelters, especially going into this evening as weather conditions become worse. Second, really focusing on individuals who are older and medically vulnerable. We've talked about some of the resources that we've got available. We've also mobilized our entire aging network, which includes our area agencies on aging, to really be able to get deep into the community to touch those individuals who might be isolated, many of whom might live alone, to be able to connect with them, check in on them, especially as we see more power outage across the state. Third, we're really focusing on people with disabilities. This is both visible and non-visible disabilities. There are many individuals who have serious mental health disorders. We're continuing to make sure that we're working with our county partners to do outreach to them, to make sure that they have a safe place to be, that they have the resources, the medications, et cetera, to be able to continue to shelter in place. So really focusing on individuals who may have access or functional needs. And again, this is both the visible and the invisible disability that an individual might have. And then finally, really focused on individuals who are in congregate facilities. This is both medical and non-medical. On the medical side, really thinking about skilled nursing facilities, facilities for people with developmental disabilities. On the non-medical side, we're really focused on children's residential places, so individual kids in foster care who might be in congregate settings, as well as older individuals who might be in assisted living facilities. So we're really kind of honing in our technical assistance and working through those. If you do, or individuals in your community do have loved ones who are in assisted living facilities, and those facilities end up being evacuated, on the Department of Social Services website, we have a list that is updated daily of facilities that have been evacuated and where they've been evacuated to. And this is important because you may panic because you are not able to get a hold of a particular facility that your mother or father or loved one might be in, and you want to know where they are. And that panic is real. And so we are working with the facility operators to put on our website where those individuals have been evacuated to, so that you can reach out to your loved ones and be able to know where to go. If we do have skilled nursing facilities or medical facilities that do evacuate, right now we have none. But if we do have those, the Department of Public Health will do something very similar, and they will post on their website the facility that has been evacuated and where it has evacuated to. We update this on a regular basis, multiple times a day. So please feel free to reach out to those. Finally, the Department of Social Services works with our American Red Cross partners, as well as our county and local partners regarding shelters that are being open. We have pre-staged material in various parts of the state to be able to open up shelters within 2 hours. Our website at cdss.ca.gov has a listing of shelters, and our colleagues at the department, at the Governor's Office of Emergency Services, also have a series of warming centers that are available, and they keep that up to date. The thing that I would like to flag here that is really important, particularly for our immigrant populations, and in particular due to the chilling effects of the public charge rules that have been promulgated in the past from the federal government, individuals, regardless of immigration status, are welcome at these facilities. We have commitments from the federal government related to not taking any enforcement action. No IDs are required at these particular facilities. So we want to make sure that our immigrant populations feel welcomed and are not afraid to really gain services at these shelters and warming centers. And that is an important factor in terms of making sure that we communicate that information to our communities in language across the state, as multiple shelters end up standing up over the course of the next couple of days with the various weather systems that are coming our way. So that just is a quick summary of our work. Again, chhs.ca.gov. You will find the emergency resource guide, which has a host of other resources. And I will just leave you where I started, which is your own mental health is really important. I know this weighs heavy on people. It weighs heavy on me personally. And so take the time to take a deep breath, to do the things that make you tick, that make you happy. And if you do need to talk to somebody, there is absolutely no shame in being able to reach out to somebody. And we've got free confidential resources available to you and to members of our community to be able to support you through this. We are in this together, and we are here for you in this time. So I will pass this back over to the Cal OES team to close this out.
Thank you so much, Undersecretary. Appreciate you all and the information that you're providing us. Want to kind of leave you with a few tips before we go into questions. It is really important to share resources from official sources only. This includes information from your local governments, counties, cities, your local Office of Emergency Services, sheriff, and others. They will be the #1 and only source on information related to evacuations. And then we want you as trusted messengers to really use your networks to share out any preparedness and safety tips. We know that there's a lot of weather coming in, continued bad weather, and I think that the news has done a good job of letting us all know that that weather is incoming. But it is always important to be prepared and to have those tips ready at hand. So make those phone calls to your community members, see what they need, what are the resources they need, and remind them to really pass on those preparedness tips. Post, repost on social media. Perhaps someone will not love seeing information from a local government or sheriff, but if they hear it from you, it will mean so much more. Send an email to your network, something on flood preparedness tips or evacuation tips, or how to figure out what is your best evacuation route. And then add information at the tops of your website. Even, right when folks go into your website, if you can do a pop-up, reminding people that there's inclement weather out there is really important. We've shared so many things and so many URLs, but want to leave you with 2 in particular, where we're trying to do a clearinghouse of all of the helpful tips and information, and where you can get our graphics and toolkit. Go to news.caloes.ca.gov/storms. We also have the same page in Spanish /tormentas. So with that, I'm going to facilitate a few questions, if I could. I appreciate you all being so interactive. We've received so many. I think this one's going to go to Brian Ferguson. So teeing you up so you're ready on camera. What resources are currently available to community members? How can CBOs best work, support, and help provide that support for winter weather?
Yeah, thank you for that. And thanks again for everyone for hopping on. And, want to say that a couple of things people in the comments asked, like, there's a lot of information here. We will send a wrap-up email to everyone who's registered so that you can have all of the links and information and resources in different languages and phone numbers to share with your groups. But I think awareness is the first thing we were looking for and what you can do. Obviously, that looks different depending on the communities you serve. That probably isn't social media if you serve older Californians. A lot of times it's person to person or phone banking or other things. But our goal is to basically activate this network of really smart people who have meaningful relationships with the communities they serve, so that you can help share this information before the disaster. And particularly if you live in a community where there's evacuations or we start to have an emergency situation, we would love for you to share information on getting the word out, as well as, you now have that reach back into us. If there's gaps that you're seeing, if we don't have, Hmong language, we are happy to produce that for you. So, what we're looking for you all to do is to help be a force multiplier for us, to get the word out. And ultimately we want to save lives. There are questions about some of the financial resources. The federal declaration that the president signed, the emergency authorization the governor signed, both of those open up resources that flow to counties to do things like sheltering and outreach. And so we can also connect you with your county emergency management office, who will facilitate a lot of this work locally. All disasters are local, and so we're happy to do that as well. But just looking for all of you to help voice and be a community partner.
If I could still have you, Brian, one last question. I know that we're getting a lot of inclement weather in burn scar zones. Any just specific recommendation for folks that live in that area?
Yeah, we have about 17 burn scars across the state that we're monitoring. So these are areas that have burned in fires the last 2 or 3 years that may be particularly prone to mudslides and debris flows if there's saturation there. We had a very deadly mudslide several years ago in Montecito, San Bernardino County, and are monitoring that closely. In these areas, it is more important there than any place else to evacuate early. That may close some of the roads you're used to doing. And particularly if you're, a family member or loved one or part of community where it may take a little extra time, we encourage people to not wait for authorities to tell them to evacuate, to get out early, and to do so while it's still light outside. We have a lot of people trying to cross, flooded streams and flooded roadways at night, and that can become a very dangerous situation. So if you ever feel in danger, please get out, and also, check on neighbors or loved ones, older adults who may need a little bit of extra help or time.
Thank you so much, Brian. I'm gonna tee up maybe National Weather Service. We've got some information related to maybe some of the weather pattern in Southern California. How much will some of kind of this storm situation impact folks and communities in Southern California?
Yeah, so we are going to see the potential for both rain and wind impacts all the way down to San Diego County through tonight and into tomorrow. So yes, most of those heavily populated areas in Southern California could see some impacts over the next 24 hours.
Much appreciated. Getting a few more questions in regards to resources. Where can we find information in Spanish and indigenous languages? Especially given, maybe folks who are newer Californians or recent immigrants. Rachel, maybe that's a good one for you.
Sure. So at the Listos California website, there are a variety of different formats and types of resources that could be helpful to you when reaching out to a variety of different communities. There is a series of audio files and video files, which could be useful to those who speak Indigenous languages only. And you will find those at the Listos California Resource Hub. There are also materials that I think you can take just information from if you don't want to share everything that's there, because sometimes that can be a little overwhelming, especially when we're faced with an emergency situation. So if you want to take a look at what is available and can kind of choose what you think is going to make the most sense, you're welcome to make these your own so that they work for you. The information is there so that we can help people. And if you need to tailor it for your use, then you're welcome to do so.
Much appreciated, Rachel. I'm going to throw one out to our undersecretary at HHS. There's a few questions here just in regards to, at-risk populations, in regards to maybe, how are older adults being reached who may not have regular access to internet, smartphone, text messages. There's also questions about CPAP machines and others. Do you mind maybe answering that for them?
Yeah, of course. So let me take those two separately. On the older adult population, I think that the participant in the chat, I think, did a really good job of flagging that many individuals don't have smartphones. Many don't have cell phones. I know my grandmother only uses her landline, and she will not go to a cell phone. And she's not unique. There's a lot of older adults in California who are like that. And so we have really mobilized our network of aging partners anchored by the area agencies on aging. We have 33 of them across the state that provide services to older adults like Meals on Wheels programs, et cetera, and really trying to make sure that we're leveraging those programs to check in on older adults, particularly those older adults who may be living by themselves. Additionally, as I alluded to earlier, we do have the friendship line open, and they are taking calls from older adults who may be scared, isolated, or lonely to be able to just talk to somebody. And this is only available to older adults, really designed to serve that population in a unique way. And then more broadly speaking, we're asking our health and human services community partners, CBOs, counties, et cetera, to really do some proactive neighbor-to-neighbor outreach to older adults. On my street, for example, there are 3 individuals that live by themselves who are over the age of 80, making really sure that you knock on their door to check in on them to see if there's anything they need, particularly at a time when they might not have power. So really doing that grassroots work in community to try to do that while augmenting some of the resources. On the durable medical equipment side, there are a series of warming centers and shelters that are available. To Vance's point earlier, I think it's really important that folks make a list of contacts that they can deploy and then really be able to connect with those warming centers and shelters in the event that they do need power or have life-saving equipment that they use in order for them to be able to breathe or do other things. And so really be able to have a plan. And to be honest with you, it is not late to prepare. As the National Weather Service alluded to, these storms will come later today and we'll have multiple storms. Really helping someone print out or prepare for this is going to be important, and then making sure that they have backup power supply and or know where the warming centers are is going to be a really important factor, particularly for those individuals with durable medical equipment.
Much appreciated, Undersecretary. Thank you so much. Given the time, I think we're going to wrap up, but we are more than happy to take your questions. So if you have any other questions, don't hesitate to send them to media@caloes.ca.gov. Happy to answer them offline. And then in addition, just want to assure all of you, we will be sending this PowerPoint and all of the resources available in a follow-up email so that you can have it and spread the word. So again, I can't reiterate enough. Appreciate you all joining, and thank you to our panelists also for their information. Don't hesitate to reach out to us and let us know how we can be helpful in your local community. Thank you so much.